Hello, everybody. I hope you're all keeping well. It's been remarkable what's been going on the last few days, and I will talk about the present situation in the United States at the end of this video. But beforehand, I want to lay some groundwork as to why it's an amazing thing we all should be thankful and grateful to be watching. We are living in a remarkable time. We are living in the front row seats of an epic mythology that's unfolding before us. In centuries to come, what's going on right now will be mythologized and perhaps even theologicalized into an incredible story. And we were all part of it, and you saw it. And it's like I saw an interview recently with a top English FA referee, and they asked him, "What's your job like?" And he goes, "It's the most amazing job on earth. I get to see goals scored by people like Ronaldinho and Ronaldo and Messi and all these amazing players right before my eyes and see their incredible skills." And he goes, "I have the best seat in the stadium. Even though I'm the referee of the game and I'm not a fan, I get to see these remarkable feats performed by these young men when they're playing football." And likewise, I'm sure female referees feel the same way too, watching, or male referees or females football. It doesn't matter. It's one of those things. It's like I can remember watching Olga Korbut when I was a kid in the Olympics, and then Namia Kamenchka, I think her name was, the Romanian lady, she was only a kid at the time, and it was impossible to believe that the human body could do those kinds of things. But again, I've been to sports events where I've seen remarkable things happen. All kinds of games, and it's a thing that it's gone. You see, it may be recorded on TV, but there's nothing like saying, "Gosh, I was there." I was there. I was in Giant Stadium when Ireland beat Italy in the World Cup. It was like, nothing could come close to like even describing that. It's just remarkable. And this is the world we're living in now. This is the paradigm. This is it. And it can seem frightening, frustrating, but all these emotions are valid. The best love affair you ever had with someone was made up of emotions that were both painful and glorious. You'll always remember that. You don't remember the love affair or the relationship you had with someone that was okay. It's okay. It was nice. But you'll always remember the ones that were intense, that had intense passion. That was also counterpunched by intense pain, whether it be the breakup or dealing with it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's the mill of poetry. That's a wonderful thing. And that's the furnace of the artistic and the mythological process, part of your own monomyth. And now we're seeing it on the macro myth, on the big level. This is all, again, I sat through the videos of AV 1111, and I just watched the John Waters and Gemma O'Doherty one. And although I don't agree with Gemma O'Doherty's religion and her spiritual outlook for this country, I have a great respect for the woman and her passion. There's no doubt about that. She and I spiritually would be chalk and cheese, but I can see there's a good kind soul in there that's doing what wouldn't be for me, but that's okay. Feel la difference. And the two of them, both her and John Waters, delivered a very good. There was a bit of an Irish contingent there on the weekend, thanks to Ian and UK column, and I think it provided a very different way of things. People said when the Irish contingent came into AV11, that people were saying, both myself and Gemma O'Doherty and John Waters, it was nice to hear this kind of poetic Celtic kind of language and use of words. And it's true, and use of phrasing and this kind of, our natural poetic inclination. And there's a lot of truth to that. That's definitely true. I think that's one of the reason why on this sort of like with the whole lockdown thing and all, so many strong voices, Irish voices in the alternative field, is because we do have this Celtic twilight thing about us still, and I hope we never ever lose it. But it does have a way, because we're kind of like a mystical people. I know we've got as much muppets and as much bullshit as anywhere else, but there's something there that's we've held on to for, like, of course we're not saying we're better than anyone. The English had this, unfortunately, until it was ravaged by the Anglo-Saxons. Not the Anglo-Saxons, by the Normans, who, you would have found that the Anglo-Saxons were exactly the same and things like that. And the Norse. I'll talk about that in a minute, but this ability to see these things in this metaphorical, poetic, allegorical way is a great way of getting around the frustrations of the complexities of everyday life and also the macro world as a whole. So, and I've noticed since the full moon and since we did the egg thing, but not in the last few days, especially during the whole election in the US, after the initial, well, it's very interesting. I don't know, it's how I felt, but I don't know how you felt. When they paused the counting, and we've had Biden stuck at 243 and Trump at 240, and a kind of a peace has kind of come over me. It's almost like a meditative thing has popped into me. And I've noticed that synchronicities have been absolutely flying at the moment. Now, this is part when the synchronicities are flying, the universe is, and the field is communicating directly with you. And people, I got, how many emails I've got this week saying people had dreams about me, and so this is powerful stuff. Now, it's, I'm not a political analyst. I would leave. I'm not even a good one for breaking down, facts and figures and stuff like that. I tend to go with my intuitive noetic insights, and then I will reference that. And I'm not looking for confirmation bias, but I will reference that to like real world things and say, yeah, I have that hunch for the right reasons. People like Dave Cullen are, that man, like Christian Morris says, that man works, and it's true. And so he's the master for that, okay? Where I'm sort of like more the kind of the Shanachie, the bardic type way of approaching it. And so, being artistically minded, although I do have a good balance between the left and right brain in general, I find the use of magical, spiritual, artistic, a poetic language, it helps me understand things better. Just works for me. So, and I don't believe there's any coincidences in the universe. Now, this morning, a friend of mine in Holland sent me out of the blue a thing on the metatonic ascension. Now, that's what. Let me explain to you what this is. This is a Kabbalistic thing. It's called the Metatronic Ascension, or the Metatronics, the Metatronic spiral in our language, but it comes from a complex Hebrew term, and I won't insult our Jewish friends by trying to pronounce it, but basically it's to do with Kabbalism. And Kabbalism, when you strip down all the spiritual things, whether it's be Christianity, like right now, to an Orthodox Christian, we are at the time of the apocalypse. The seals have been broken, and the goat vellum has been opened up, and the secrets revealed. You could use the same, the Kali Yuga in Hinduism, or the Bhaktuns and the Mayan philosophy, and it just goes on and on and on. And so the Metatronic Ascension is basically, okay. Let's talk about what it isn't. What it isn't is what the Hindus call dharma, or what you would call natural law in Western modern esoteric or spiritual language, and even that's even transformed into sort of like secular language as well. The idea of natural law, but it's basically following the path of nature and not being profound in the natural laws of things. So you don't, basically it's human decency, being fair, and following your dharma, your life path. as the Hindus say. If you don't follow Dharma, you have negative karma. And because you're out of sync with natural law. Now, within Kabbalism, you have the same kind of thing. You have the tree of life, and you have an ascension of the tree of life. But sometimes, and this is very interesting stuff, within anything in life, you are forced to make a deal with the devil in order to save your ass. And this within the Metatronic ascension is called, essentially in Hebrew translates as making a deal with fallen angels, which means basically being a bad boy or a bad girl, cheating in order to escape the natural trajectory or the architecture of the Kabbalistic tree of life. And likewise, the same thing would apply in classical paganism and classical thought with the deviating from the quadrants of the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden mean spirals. That's the European version. I don't know a lot about the I Ching, but the I Ching, but I've been told that it's very similar. It has the same kind of functions. Now, when you go into the Metatronic Ascension and make deals with fallen angels, it's usually done to save you if something has gone wrong during a magical process or a Kabbalistic working, that maybe a super demon has appeared in the mist, and you have to jump out of the natural function of the natural flow of of the tree of life and go into the Metatronic ascension in order to escape it. But then it's assumed that you get back onto the path when the danger has been gone. Now, if you don't get back onto the path, you are out of sync with natural law. When you're out of sync with natural law, you're profane, and you cannot avoid the natural laws of the universe forever. You can, because of this materialistic structure that we're bound upon within this five sense reality, you can do it for a while, but you can't get out. That's why in magic you have the opening closing of a ritual. You don't do the ritual all the time. You open and close it. This is why archetypes come into vogue and then they're put to sleep. A good one would be Kek. Pepe has now had a resurgence because of the things that are going on in the US election at the moment. He was profane after Trump became elected and in power, put to sleep, and now there's a resurgence. Now, I'll talk about this. This is quite a complex video. You might want your pen and paper for this. But this whole thing of straying from natural law, or the Metatronic Ascension, is the English version of the Hebrew vernacular of that, is common sense, that you won't get away with it forever. You might get away with it for a while, or you might get away with it, but then if you clean up your act, you'll get back. It'll be forgotten, and you're okay again. But if you continue to stray from the path of Dharma, as in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna said to Arjuna that the whole thing of if you're against Dharma, if you stray from the path of Dharma will stray from you, and you will find yourself in negative karma. And therefore, that's why he says, fight, Arjuna, fight, rather than on the field of the Battle of Purvashta. Again, these things are always expressed with battles. Have you noticed that, whether it's been Armageddon or the Battle of Purvashta in the Bhagavad Gita, and also in the Irish thing, it's also shown that way. These differences between these battles of consciousness. You have, well, that's the Táin, the great Irish epic, although it's been edited by Christian monks, essentially is about this same kind of idea, that Cuchulainn has to fulfill his dharma no matter what, and this goes as far as killing his best friend, Ferda, and it's heartbreaking, but it has to be done, because that's the way that's the Ulster cycle has to be fulfilled for that reason. And you have that also in the Ragnarok thing, where Thor is killed by the world serpent, and and again you have it in other Irish epics like the Battle of Moytura. Again, these are spiritual events. They're expressed in these language where Nuada is killed by, Balor of the Evil Eye until, this is one of the gods. The gods die, and is taken down by Lu of the Long Arm, who appears as a flash of light. And you know, this is this represents the spark, comes from the Indo-European root luke, which gives us Lucifer and gives us Lu, and it gives us a flash of insight, and that this has to be done. And so this metatronic cycle, by amazing coincidence, my friend in Holland sends to me today, and it goes, yeah, that's the architecture. That's what I was thinking of. The you know this, yes, it's kabbalistic, but it's the spiritual architecture I'm trying to convey. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations writes very well on this concept of, and even people like the Renaissance artists like Michelangelo in his letters, you'll find that as well. There's this thing of like, you must abide by the laws of nature, or the laws of nature will abandon you. And this is dharma in the Vedic Hindu thing, and it's the metatronic cycle and metatronic ascension. So basically, what's happened in recent days is, now I'm bringing this into the American election. There's absolutely no doubt there has been fraud committed in that election. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you look at how things happened, now when again, we're living in a magical experience, so don't be getting too upset about it in a kind of a secular or anger, or very much a political way. Think about these things in a kind of a cosmic way. You had Trump winning everywhere until about 3:30 p.m. a.m. in Eastern Standard Time in Washington D.C., which was also when he flipped over and started to overtake Hillary Clinton in 2016. Now, I have a video, I'll post a link below, on the importance of the 3:30 a.m. No matter where you are in the world, it's an extremely important thing. And again, like anything to do with magic, it has a scientific explanation. But it flipped over at that point. And suddenly, states where Trump was winning, there was literally, the curve went up and over. That was the Metrotronic ascension. It was a cheat. There was suddenly finding ballots, and they were all Joe Biden's ballots, and there was lockdowns. People weren't allowed to go into the polling stations, and it's clear and obvious dodginess. It absolutely is. Now, I would not, if you wanted Trump to win, and I wanted Trump to win, because I know that Biden is not really the president of the United States. He and the vice president with him are basically going to be run by Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. And if Biden drops dead in the next 8 years, the Hillary Foundation is running, because she's unelectable, because she's not a nice person. She's profane, and she was totally unelectable, especially now. And so she has to install a puppet on her behalf, a regime on her behalf. Now, Biden, if I mean, it's not over yet, and we're, like I said, we're living in a kind of a twilight zone. That's why there's a kind of a peculiar sense of calmness, a peculiar sense of calmness, and I can around right now, even though it should be like convulsion. And you will notice magic and sorcery is very strong at this moment. Now, one of the places I've noticed is on Twitter. There's something really weird happening on Twitter with Biden supporters and people with TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. They're posting this weird mantra, like a cult mantra or a prayer or an invocation. What? It's really true. Where they're saying things like, well, the same thing is said over and over again, copy and pasting. They're like the dead-eyed cult members in the movie Quatermass 3 going, lay, 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 lay. And the mantra is, you know, Trump's tears are my daily medicine. His destruction is my only reason for living. Really, I mean, disturbing, completely disturbing stuff, and they're all copying and pasting it like just zombies. And now I haven't figured out if this is the dark side working on behalf of the neocon Clintons for Biden's people to try and hex Trump, because it's obvious chaos magic played an enormous part in the 2016 election, particularly the Keck and Pepe thing, and things like 4chan, that they're trying to use magic. They've hired some, I don't know, some occultist to try and do this. Or if it's indeed a 4chan troll, which is could be quite possible, that 4chan, like what they did with free bleeding and other things like this, and free peeing, fed it out into the other side in order to get them to sabotage, to burlesque themselves. I don't know, but either way, it's part of this magical process we're undertaking, and I felt all that way last weekend with AV11. It felt very much in that field that there was a strong spiritual sense, regardless of people being Catholics, Protestants, Jews, atheists, pagans like me, or other people. It was very beautifully powerful, and it was again the whole thing. You knew you were on the right side because we were in natural law. We were not profane, and the other side is profane. Now, this is this I and Gemma Doherty. It's amazing all the synchronicities pop up. A few days ago, I was thinking about soupism, and Gemma Doherty brings soupism up in our talk. Now, soupism probably isn't true. Well, it is and it isn't true. It was soupism, and it's very similar to taking the vaccine or app tracing, COVID app tracing, and things like that, and health passports. Back in the Irish famine, soup kitchens were set up by Quakers, and they were genuinely done for the right reason. The Quakers were not doing anything other than their good Christian duty to help the starving Irish peasantry in the countryside. Basically, you went to their place and they gave you a bowl of soup so you wouldn't die, a nutritious meal. Some Catholics, radicals, and this is the truth, this is not my made up thing, were telling poor Catholics that if they didn't get the soup, if they went for the soup, they'd be forced to become Protestants. And so it's very similar to the lockdown and the mask. It wasn't true. It'd be just like that with the vaccine. They'll just say the same thing. We have a vaccine, and all the meat, the profane, will be running up, going, "Give it to me, give it to me." But it won't be compulsory, because that won't work. It won't. But they'll make it. They don't care. They don't know 80% of the morons will run up and believe it. All you have to do now. Things change rapidly. I'm looking at like I was saying the other day in the video about the journal.ie. If you were to mention anything a few weeks ago about the having your rights taken away by this whole thing, you were called a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hatter. Now the top comments on the journal.ie, which is basically the great unwashed having their say, is that they put us in a police state. So it's now the people that they were slagging off a month ago, they're now all not championing, but they're echoing the same sentiments. Now that's because they've returned back to natural law and back to the golden section Fibonacci sequence, and strayed and removed themselves from the path of Metatronic ascension. Now, that's what's happened there. Natural law has returned, because you cannot be in violation of natural law for any more than a quick getaway, a quick dealing with falling angels. That's just an architectural language that's used to describe, the same thing as I had a quick deal with the devil just to save my ass, and then I went back to, doing the right thing. That's what that's about. That's what that means. You might be allowed one or two chances to dodge the natural cycle, but you won't dodge it forever. And this is what we need to take into account with this American election. And of course, the whole COVID-19 thing as well. And everything else if you remember me for nothing else, remember me for things like this. That if they cannot constantly be in violation of natural law. They can't. Even with their technological Marxism, they can't. It's not possible. And this is why all these systems fail. And this is why it's important, and this is happening. We're seeing beyond seeing ourselves as Christian, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, atheists, whatever, and just abiding by natural law. Because natural law is the same thing as God's law if you're a Christian. It's the same thing. You cannot be in violation of the fundamental mechanics of the universe, okay? And this is what's happening with the elites and the establishment right now. Now, Biden's team have obviously cheated. They might, and I say might, win the presidency of the United States of America because of this. However, they are profane, and they are certifiably profane. It's obvious. It's not even, it's not even the mysterious Russian bots of 2016. This is something, this is hard evidence. And the media, of course, being disgraceful, have been saying things like Trump said there's cheating without producing evidence. There's tons of evidence, tons of it. And you have counties in Wisconsin where you had 101% voter turnout. Are you telling me that Joe Biden is the most popular presidential candidate in the history of the United States, more popular than JFK, Reagan, and Obama? Are you telling me that when he couldn't even fill a gymnasium full of people for his meetings? Are you telling me that? And at the same time, in the same election, Donald Trump scored way more votes than he did in 2016, and Biden had to be literally the greatest politician in the history of the universe in order to beat him. When you look at Joe Biden, do you see a JFK? Do you see a great statesman? Do you see a Mahatma Gandhi? And yet they're telling us that that was the most popular politician that the world has ever produced, and that's in violation of natural law. That's the Metatron ascension, and that is not sustainable in terms of karma and dharma and going forward. So take a lot of comfort in this, that they have shown themselves for what they are. Okay, as the analogy I used at Brian Gerrish on Sunday was that we have called the beast from the abyss, the Leviathan from the depths. It's raised itself out, and it's shown itself for what it is. Now, it may not even be Biden's fault. He's a puppet. He's part of a machine. But I think the way Trump is playing this is quite beautiful. He's doing what us in the alternative scene do. We point to the shimmer in the water and we say, there is the Leviathan. It's just below the surface. We point to the disturbance in the field and go, there is the C333 and the abyss. It's there. Can you see it? And we're all seeing it now. Used as back to the Orthodox Christian language, the apocalypse has been opened. The seal has been broken. That's one of the most powerful Christian metaphors, I think, of all, is that the whole thing of the seal and the vellum being opened. And that's where we are now. And I'll just say this to you. Be thankful you're seeing it. Don't get over frustrated no matter what happens in the outcome. And you're living in a time that you're blessed to be seeing. And it's incredible. So, again, calm down, relax. Don't get too upset about the material world things. Observe your dreams, observe synchronicities, and as Franz Kafka said, allow the universe to dance at your feet. Thank you, and take care of yourselves.